We're back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So many things that I got here. Okay. Listen, I told you this is like a one-man show over here. It's a one-man show here. Okay. So I'm like, this is this and that. All right, let me get into this. Downloading, I'm uploading. I'm doing everything here. I forgot the microphones were positioned over there, and that's the Rob Black. Okay, so I want to jump into this the hospitals. We touched on it a little when before we went to break, and this notion that hospitals are not ready for Ebola, and the CDC should be doing more to educate hospitals, to get hospitals ready for Ebola. I've seen stories on the old World Wide Web, on the old Google, that shows healthcare workers talking about that they're not properly being trained in Ebola. There was some a former nurse, or is currently a nurse from the Texas Presbyterian Hospital, that said that they were never instructed how to deal with Ebola. They had a course that was offered to them, like a seminar that was offered to them, but a lot of them did not take the course. It was a voluntary course, and a lot of them didn't take that course, but they were never instructed on how to properly take off the clothing that they would wear to protect themselves from disease, and that they don't have some of the equipment that they have seen on TV out of Liberia with Doctors Without Borders, where some of the protective gear is covering their necks. And that's the Texas nurse. There's other officials that head up different nurse organizations, unions, that say that the nurses are being lied to. So ultimately, what you're hearing is breakdowns at these hospitals. But once again, this is somehow flowing back to the CDC and President Obama. Now, the last I checked, we in the United States of America live in a democracy, okay? We live in a democracy. We live in a country that believes in capitalism. And we have hospitals, and we have drug companies, and we have nurses, and we have ambulance driver. We have a healthcare system that is not run by the government. Now, we tried to implement some form of single payer type system, but of course that was balked at. The government has been shut down just over Obamacare, which is nothing more than health insurance that people are able to get and have it subsidized by the federal government. But ultimately, that money goes to whatever hospitals that those people go to get fixed. So the hospital takes that insurance and they bill the federal government. Hospitals are for profit. Hospitals pay their nurses $15, $20, $25 an hour. Hospitals pay their doctors hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Where is it that the government controls hospitals? Where is it that the government has to call each hospital and say, hey, we just want to make sure that you went out and bought equipment to deal with an infectious disease. We want to make sure that you went out and got the proper equipment that one would have to deal with a biohazard disease. Again, unless we live in Russia or unless we live in a communist country where all the hospitals are controlled by the federal government, all the workers of the hospitals are employees of the federal government, when in the F did it become the federal government's responsibility to make sure $1 million employed hospitals, let's face it, okay, as a whole, $1 billion hospitals, but employees at Johns Hopkins, you're going to tell me that the doctors there make $40,000 a year? When is it the government's responsibility to make sure a multi-million-dollar facility has the proper equipment to deal with what they're being paid by patients to do? How is this Obama and the CDC's fault? When I look at Republican senators come on there and say the CDC should be doing more to make hospitals be prepared to deal with Ebola. Why? Why? If the CDC sends out a goddamn memo that says, hey, Ebola could possibly come to the United States, you guys need to be prepared. End of story. End of story. How is it the government's responsibility to make sure private hospitals that are making millions and millions and millions of dollars a year to be ready to handle Ebola? Think about this. Have you ever gone to the goddamn emergency room at a fucking hospital? Have you ever gone in there for something as simple as a broken arm and at the end you get a bill and it's like 7,000 goddamn dollars? The federal government's not getting that $7,000. The assholes at Northridge Hospital are getting that $7,000. Where does the federal government get paid? From the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, USC, UCLA, Cedars-Sinai. Where's the federal government get their piece? Where? Have you ever gotten the bill for a major medical procedure from a hospital? If you've gone in there to, I don't know, deliver a baby? Have you ever gotten the paperwork for actually having a kid at a hospital? You're looking at $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. So you're telling me that a facility that charges somebody $40,000 to have a baby has to have the federal government and the CDC show up to their door and properly train them how to deal with Ebola? The federal government and the CDC has to come in and go, hey, that equipment you bought, to protect your nurses, that's not proper. The federal government has to do that? Again, these are people that want to attack the president. They want to somehow condemn the president. So they say, the CDC, they're not doing their job. What are they doing? They're Center for Disease Control. They basically go, hey, this is a bad disease. Here's a memo. Here, this is bad stuff. Do what you want with it. Do what you want with it in your private hospital that charges people $50,000 to have a baby. The private hospital that charges people $500,000 for open heart surgery. $500,000! $500,000! How in the hell is it the government's responsibility and President Obama's responsibility to go in to every hospital in America, which the federal government does not own or control, and say to them, that equipment's outdated, that equipment's wrong, you need to buy this doesn't follow protocol. They're hospitals that make millions of dollars a year. They give us medicine that they are in cahoots with the drug companies, and all of these things are marked up 10, 20-fold. And they don't know enough to have a suit that covers their nurses' necks, and they're going to plead ignorance? Unless everybody agrees tomorrow to hand over the entire healthcare system to the government, everybody needs to shut the F up about Obama and the CDC not preparing the hospitals. If I recall, when President Obama was going through creating a healthcare insurance policy to insure everybody in America, we heard from every Republican, we heard from every drug company, we heard from everybody wanting to protect the cash cow of the medical industry, if you let the government take over our health system, you're going to be waiting in line for days just to get a simple checkup. You're going to see death panels. You're going to see a breakdown of our healthcare system like you've never seen before. Private health systems, Kaiser Permanente, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cedars-Sinai, UCLA, all of these medical institutions know how to treat their patients. And if you make the government take these institutions over, you're going to get the same bureaucracy and the same failures in the government that you see with the roads and with the mail system and with how our Congress works. And you're going to see it in our hospitals. And our hospitals, because they are private and because they are based on competition and hospitals doing the best they can for their customers. That is why we have the best health system in the United States. Really? Well, now we have an Ebola outbreak, and you have one hospital, Texas Health Presbyterian, who dropped the ball on every aspect from diagnosing somebody with Ebola to treating somebody with Ebola and protecting their workers from Ebola. And now you're hearing other hospitals say they're not prepared. So guess what? This awesome private system that is the healthcare business, that if President Obama got involved in, if the government got involved in, you would see a failure that would cause people to die in the street. Well, Obama never got involved. The government never got involved. All the hospitals are privately owned. They are privately governed. And what are you seeing? A systematic failure from the top of the food chain to the bottom of the food chain of these hospitals. And now they're all crying that somehow Obama and the CDC didn't prepare them. I'm literally in la la land. I literally am in another stratosphere. Seriously, I am in another stratosphere. There's not a doctor at a major hospital. For Christ's sakes, doctors that work at these mom and pop urgent care clinics make six figures. There's not a doctor working at a major metropolitan hospital that makes less than $250,000. We're not talking about interns that are doing their residency. We're talking about the doctors. We're talking about the guys that go, yeah, my name's John Smith. I've been a doctor for 8 years here at UCLA. I've been a doctor here at Texas Health Presbyterian for 10 years. That doctor ain't making less than $250,000. And if they happen to be part of a surgical crew, if they happen to be the people that will open your chest up and repair a valve or something of that nature, or they go inside your brain and relieve swelling because you were in a boxing match or you fell down skiing and hit your head on a goddamn rock, you're talking about $500,000. So all of these professionals in these hospitals need the CDC and President Obama to tell them which protective overcoats that they should have their goddamn nurses wear? Really? That's what needs to be done. President Obama and the CDC are supposed to go in to these hospitals and say, we demand that you have training courses that everybody in your hospital has to go to in order to learn how to deal with Ebola. Really? The president can't even demand hospitals to take somebody that's uninsured and help them. They're literally people that will shuffle you off to a different hospital because your insurance does not cover what needs to be done. Or you don't have insurance. Think about that. Think about everything the president fought to get hospitals and insurance companies to do. He fought tooth and nail for almost 2 years. Our federal government got shut down. And at the end of the day, what were the things that were passed? And what was it that he had to basically twist the arms of Republicans to get? So that people with pre-existing conditions would get covered by a healthcare provider. How's that? Before Obama enacted and fought tooth and nail for us, insurance companies said, oh, you have high blood pressure? We're not going to give you health insurance. Oh, you've had polyps, you've had colon cancer before? We're not going to insure you. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that whole concept. And you wonder why hospitals don't have the proper equipment? Because at the end of the day, when the administrator of these hospitals go, all right, how much is it going to cost for that equipment? It's going to cost us $100,000. How much is it going to cost for that lesser equipment? $50,000? Go with the $50,000. Yeah, but it's not as good as the 100. Yeah, but come on, dude. Are we ever really going to have Ebola? Are we ever really going to be attacked by a biohazard bomb? Exactly. Just order we need the equipment, so just get the cheap stuff. What about a containment room? Oh, man. You guys want that? Well, administrator, staff chief, we're just, we're a hospital. We're a big hospital. We got to be prepared. So now we've got to build a whole wing? No. Okay. What do we not use the most? Okay. Take that area. Now, I know they have those bubble tents, like the makeshift ones that will go on location. I know it's not as good as a whole little wing, but again, how much is that wing? $1 million? No, no way. I ain't spending $1 million. Ain't happening. We gotta get bonuses at the end of the year, my friends. And if we take $1 million or $2 million, nope. How much for the bubble wrap stuff? A couple $100,000? Do the bubble wrap stuff. That's what these hospitals do. If they're the ones that are sitting there charging people $50,000 to deliver a baby. If they're the ones that are fighting tooth and nail, the president on all of these healthcare initiatives that he wanted to change. Think about the fact that you now can have your child on your health insurance until they're 26. Prior to that, that wasn't the case. He had to fight for that. You actually had hospitals, doctors, health insurance companies go, no, fuck them. Fuck them little bastards. No way. Again, how is it the CDC and the president's fault, the federal government's fault, for billion-dollar facilities that are solely driven on making a profit, not having the proper gear. How is that the federal government and President Obama's fault? How is this? How is this? I'd love to know how this is. And I will listen patiently for somebody to explain it to me. I would wait patiently for the Republicans that I see go on CNN and say the federal government, CDC, President Obama are not doing enough during this Ebola crisis to educate the hospitals. Educate a hospital. Educate a hospital. Are you kidding me? You're talking about doctors, nurses that are literally sitting in an operating room doing open heart surgery, brain surgery, separating Siamese twins, whatever the hell involved that's more than placing somebody's arm in a cast. And they need to be educated in dealing with Ebola? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? $1 million and $1 billion facilities. They need to be educated in dealing with Ebola. Are you kidding me? Somebody gets shot in the head and they get into the hospital with life-saving emergency procedures. And they need to be educated on Ebola? Are you kidding me? It's the president and the CDC's fault because they didn't send professional people to every hospital in America and make sure that they had the proper equipment? Are you kidding me? This is insane. It's insane. Beyond insane. And this is what we deal with. This is the reality of the situations. Nobody is allowed to blame the nurses. Nobody's allowed to blame the hospital. Nobody's allowed to blame the governor. Nobody's allowed to blame the senators. All you're allowed to do is blame the President of the United States. Because why? $1 million for-profit hospitals don't have their shit together, but they got their shit together enough to charge $50,000 to deliver a baby. They got their shit together enough to have your child fall off the jungle gym, break its little arm, go to the emergency, get the cast set, and they give you a bill for $7,000. They go, here you go, and you go, $7,000? Are you serious? And they go, yeah, we gotta get paid. But Ebola happens, and they're like, what do we do? What do we do? You didn't tell us we have to get this gear. We? What do you mean we? What are you talking about we? Where's we? No, you. You. The ones that make hundreds of thousands of dollars. The nurses that are getting $20, $25 an hour, $30 an hour. And I know what nurses make. We're not talking about the little candy stripers that have vocational education. Talking about the ones that go to St. John Fisher College in Rochester, New York, that work at the University of Rochester. They're making anywhere between $20 and $40 an hour. My mother My mother, when she wants to work, and what I mean by that is she works a 40-hour week, but during that time, she gets called to fill in because they're constantly needing more people to handle more patients so they can make more money. At any point of a week, my mom can work a 60-hour work week like that. And she makes $26 an hour, plus she gets health insurance. So basically, my mom basically pulls in $1,000 a week. And there's nurses there that make even more because of seniority. And this isn't Rob Black talking fictitious. Look up what nurses make. Go on the old World Wide Web. Look on the Google. Nurses don't make $20,000 a year, my friends. My mom went to the St. John Fisher. It's a college in Rochester. It's a very good college. Like doctors will go to there. My mom went there. She has a 4-year degree. Highly educated nurse. Highly educated. So the notion that all of these people at Texas Health Presbyterian are these helpless, uneducated, slave working like in a third world country is hogwash. And I said it before. You have police officers and different groups of professionals that do their jobs crappy. You have nurses and doctors who do their jobs crappy. You have hospitals that do their jobs crappy. I heard one senator say that some of these hospitals don't have the proper protocols on how to remove and dispose of infectious waste properly. She said that is a government CDC issue. How? If you're a hospital, how is it your not responsibility? How is it that you are not responsible for how to throw away and dispose of your infectious waste? How does this make any sense? How does this make any sense? Please inform me of this. If you own a hospital that has hundreds of people that work for it, and these people are being paid tens of thousands of dollars, how do you not have an infectious waste program to know how to dispose of biohazard? How does this not exist? And by not having this exist, how is it the president or the CDC's fault? How? Go to a major hospital's staff parking lot. Tell me what you see. I'll tell you what you see. You'll see Mercedes-Benzes. You'll see BMWs. My mom's got a beautiful white BMW. You'll see Bentleys. I mean, literally, you will see cars. You will literally see cars that are not broken down jalopies. You will see cars from people that work in a profession that generates tens of billions of dollars a year, and their job is to make people better when they're sick and keep them alive. Plain and simple. And to say that they are not properly trained in how to deal with Ebola, and that's the fault of the CDC and the president, is BS. If you are the medical chief of a hospital, that's your goddamn responsibility. When a medical chief, when the administrative boss is running Johns Hopkins, it is his responsibility to make sure he implements all of the things that could possibly happen in his community to affect the citizens and could kill them, maim them, or whatever it is. It's his responsibility to make sure that his hospital is equipped to handle that. It's not the federal government. The federal government don't own the hospitals. You want to know what the federal government controls? The VA hospitals. And what is happening now? The federal government, President Obama, people are under fire because the VA hospitals do a piss poor job of taking care of our vets. That is warranted. That's warranted. That's the federal government. A veterans hospital, federal government. Cedars-Sinai, not the federal government. Texas Health Presbyterian, not the federal government. Johns Hopkins, not the federal government. All these Republicans and all these people talk about we have to be able to take care of ourselves. The government needs to be out of our lives. The government is too much into our lives. But yet, this situation, everybody's screaming for the government. The government. Where were they? Where was the government? Where was the government? Where was the government? What do you mean, where was the government? The government has been kept out of the hospital business for years. For years. The government is not in the hospital business. That's privatized. Ladies and gentlemen, this is reality. Hospitals are a billion-dollar business. And for them not to be prepared to deal with Ebola, it's not the federal government's fault. It's not the CDC's fault. It's the leadership and the executive board members at these hospitals that are raking in millions and millions of dollars in paychecks. It's their fault. It's their responsibility. Demand these hospitals demand that these people take responsibility for their own actions and demand Texas Health Presbyterian to take responsibility from their administration to their staff for what they did and stop trying to pass the buck. It's the Rob Black Show, guys. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, all right, we're going to be joined by everybody's favorite. Now, when I say favorite, I mean favorite. And that's Katie Summers and the news that we can use here at the Rob Black Show.